Hey folks, Justin out on the water with Declan Williams this afternoon. We have got a drizzly afternoon, but we've also got a perfect tide for chasing bream on the flats.
Yep, we're up here on the flats. There's a bunch of birds and we can see bream feeding on prawns all across this flat here. Got about 2.5, 3 foot of water, and we're going to try 2 different presentations and just see what we can find.
Yep, we'll talk retrieves, we'll talk go-to gear, and we'll talk what to look for when you're out there chasing bream on the flats. Stay tuned. Yeah, wind him on. I just wound that one on.
And straight away, we found another bream.
Yeah.
Well, that didn't take long.
No, that did not take long. Oh, nice long cast over the flats, and I was actually just slow rolling that. So I'm running a 2.5 inch SwimZ, and that retrieve I was fishing was just a slow roll, just winding that plastic just up off the bottom so we don't foul in the weed. And that's not a bad bream. I'll swing him in. That's a good one to start with. That's the 2.5 inch SwimZ, and I've got that on a 1/4 ounce TT DemonZ Jighead. So just a handful of bream to kick things off on the flats. They love that paddle tail just on a slow wind. If I get a tap or two, I'll just keep winding until the fish feed their way onto it. So that's pretty good. Another rattle out there, so plenty going on. Righto, let's send this guy. We'll keep getting stuck into a few. All right, the rod that I'm using here is a 7'6", 2 to 4 kilo TT Black Mamba. It's a perfect rod for throwing a big long cast on the flats to cover water, and I've got it paired with a 2000 size Okuma Inspira, 6-pound braid, and we fish 10 to 15 pound leader depending on flathead and tailor and other things that could be on the flats. With that 2.5 inch SwimZ, I'm just throwing a big long cast with that rod, and then I can either just give it a few twitches to start with, and then I'm just into a slow roll, so a slow wind. But what I like to do every now and then is give it a few shakes and twitches. So the slow wind's getting it swimming like a bait fish across the flats. That shaky action every now and then of that shake and pause fires those fish up and can trigger that strike. So we'll just keep rolling some plackies and hopping the flats here and see how we go.
Oh, there we go. Talk that guy into eating. I've just got that grub on there. I'm just doing a real rattly sort of retrieve. Just keep hopping it, and then as soon as I felt that bite, I just dropped it back to him, for him to get it down his mouth. And that is a beautiful flats bream. We're only in 2.5 foot of water. All of this will dry on the low tide. And all of these guys are just feeding really hard on this run out tide. Here's a beautiful bream. He's on that little 2.5 inch grub in motor oil. Justin's on there.
Yep, I just mimicked your twitchy, shaky retrieve.
Just on that little, I've got a 1/6 on a 1 there, just so that I can get a long cast and really get that moving and get those bream fired up. He's only a little fella.
Yep, little tack of mine, I'll get rid of him. All right, so the presentation that I'm using is one of my favorites for fishing the flats. So a lot of people say to me, whoa, a 1/4 ounce head. I'm not using the head for the depth that we're fishing here. I'm using the head weight to get a long cast. So I'm using the rod tip up with a shaky retrieve or a slow roll over the flats, but I'm using that 1/4 ounce to get the presentation a long way from the boat, so I'm not spooking the bream that I'm approaching. So that's the 2.5 inch SwimZ in a favorite color, that ZMan motor oil color. Very UV reactive, which is perfect in this low light and these overcast conditions. So I'll just keep punching those long casts out on the flats here. Tangled up with Declan, sorry mate.
Yeah, right.
Those long casts with this 7'6" Black Mamba, punch out that long cast, and I'm using that 1/4 ounce for the distance, not the water depth. So I then need to keep it up off the bottom and keep it moving so that those bream can find it as it cruises across just above the bottom to about mid-water on the flats here.
So it doesn't matter if you're in the fresh or the salt, birds are such a good indication of bait. And in this case here, we just got this big flat with a run out tide, but there's such a big area to pick from, but we've picked the area that the birds are feeding on. So they're obviously here eating the bait, and that's where the bream are gonna be. So it's just always a really good place to start, and just always keep an eye out for those birds. Oh. Well,
yep.
There is definitely a bit of mayhem going on here. These birds have definitely brought us to a hot little bite. What do you got? Another bream there?
Yep, bream. Yep, bream on the flats. In you come, buddy.
That is a lot of
They're
fun.
not bad size flats
No.
Bream either. You wouldn't argue with getting stuck into a few of them.
Yeah.
And you're spot on. Birds, bait, bust ups. They're three
Yep.
things we often look for, but finding the birds can help you find where the bait is, and then hopefully the bust ups will come. We've seen a couple of brims slurping off the top,
Yeah.
eating prawns and things. So even if you don't have a prawn profile in your kit, it doesn't matter, because the presentations that we're using are around that prawny sort of size. We're twitching them like a prawn and we're imitating that bait that's on the flat, so that's pretty cool.
Right, so Justin's got that little slim swim on there, so his retrieve's more of a wind. I've got this curl tail on, so mine's more of a hop. So we'll cast out here and give a bit of a demonstration. So we don't really need to let it get to the bottom. We're just casting it out, couple of flicks, pause. Oh, and there we go.
Oh, another double.
Another double. It is going off
The
here
daily
this afternoon.
double.
That is a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Oh, look at all the brim with them.
oh, this is what it can be like when you do find a few fish up on the flats.
Yep.
Oh, he's a cracker.
They came in with a whole pile of brim.
Oh, have a look at that hookup. So that is why quality hooks are so important. TT Jigheads, Gamakatsu hook in that DemonZ, and that is pinned in the lip. So if that was a tournament you were fishing, you'd be stoked that you had that beautiful Gamma hook in there.
Pop that hook out.
A nice handful of brim.
Lovely.
Oh,
Chuck them back.
flats brimming, good fun. All right, this is an absolute favourite of mine for brim, flathead, all your river and estuary type species. It's got a beautiful bait fish profile. I like that flattened top because it gives you heaps of hook clearance. So when the fish hits it, it finds that hook. And the key to it is this underhook tail at the back end here. So being ZMan, it's 10 times tough. It's a LazTech material, so it's very stretchy, durable material. But the key is you want it to be super soft and flexible as well, because that's going to maximize your tail action. So you can see on here, the tail is actually underhooked on the plastic. That grabs a lot of water and it creates a lot of tail action that attracts the fish. And where do they bite? They bite that back section and they find that hook. So definitely a dynamite plastic if you want to get into your soft plastics river and estuary fishing. And that guy is hooked up on another favorite, the ZMan 2.5 inch GrubZ.
It's not just a ZMan favourite. I think this plastic I've got on right here would arguably be one of the most popular plastics in Australia. And that is the ZMan 2.5 inch motor oil grub, and that is down the mouth of a cracking brim. It's been a favourite for many years, and I think it's going to be a favourite for many years to come. Beautiful 2.5. Oi.
If you've never caught a fish on a soft plastic before, that is the plastic to tie on. ZMan 2.5 inch GrubZ, motor oil. If you don't get a bite on that, there's nothing there.
That is an absolutely beautiful brim. There is pelicans turning up everywhere here. A bunch of people, I think they'd sand crab along here, so these guys assume we're picking up a few pots, but no brim for you guys. Right, it is an absolute red hot session. I'll give you a rundown of this little deadly presentation while Justin catches another brim there in the background. So this is a 2.5 inch ZMan grub. So it's got a ribbed body there, good for holding scent, and then that beautiful long wavy tail that gets action just with even the slightest movement. So I think I'm going to chuck that thing back in because it is just about fish a cast here. And straight away, we found another brim. And that guy absolutely smashed that little curl tail. Such a deadly presentation. I'd hate to know how many brim I've caught on that thing.
The bite's pretty hot at the moment, but when the bite does slow, or when I first come out to flick the flats like this, I always scent up my soft plastic. So even though the bite's hot, I really want them to eat it and hang on to it and give me more time to set the hook. So a little bit of ProCure Super Gel is the go. I'm using the shrimp flavour here, but there's a stack of cool flavours in the range. I just put a little dob on each side of the plastic and I slide it right down to the tail. So that whole plastic is scented, and that's got powerful amino acids and bite stimulants and UV enhancement. It's got everything in there that might be that 1%er between getting that bite and getting that hook up. So attract more fish, trigger more strikes, but also get them to hold on longer. So I've got more time to set that hook. Let's get it out there and set it again.
Right, you might have noticed the weather's not exactly ideal today, but most of the time flats fishing fishes the best when the weather's not ideal. You'll either get it when it's overcast like this or in a windy condition. So these fish are in really shallow water, so they can be pretty spooky. So with that wind or a bit of overcast conditions, those fish can be a little bit easier to catch. So bear that in mind. You don't always want to do this flats fishing when the weather's perfect.
Yeah.
When the weather's not perfect, maybe this is a good option.
Yeah, it's a great option. You know, you might go, oh gee, it's a bit windy. I can't really hold on that structure and that I want to fish well. But if you can get out on a flat, like we're on a big open flat, so at low tide, this will be out of water. So we fish sort of the last 2 hours of the run in, first hour or two of the run out. And that wind can actually help you because it can push you across the flat so that you keep finding fish, or you do find those patches of fish. It also allows you to throw a big long cast as well. So even though you're in shallow water, you're not spooking the fish because you can punch that big long cast out there and get into them. We should punch a big long cast out ourselves, I think, and get stuck in. Well, that was a cool little bream session up on the flats. The trouble today is we don't have a big tide. So we've made the most of that tide, followed the birds, moved around, caught a bunch of bream on our go-to presentations. Now we're moving off towards the edge of the flat. The tide's forcing us off, but it will also force the fish to move off the flat. So as we move out here, we'll keep throwing casts, see if we can find a bream or two. But once we get off the edge of that flat, there's also a chance of flathead tailor, all sorts of other species that are working along that edge of the flat. So don't forget, your flats fishing can include up on the flat, and then don't forget to work those edges as that tide drops out.
Nice bream bait.
Righto.
I think you said something about they'll be moving their way off the flat like that guy.
Is that a brimbo?
Yeah, it is a brimbo. I saw him come up there. Oh no,
Tailor. Yep, tailor on that edge. As I was saying, get out on the edge of those flats where it meets the channel. I just don't want to get bitten off here.
Quickly chuck a net under that guy for you.
It looks like he was hooked all right anyway.
Yeah, a little tailor.
Yeah, just a little tailor, but just because your bream flat session comes to an end doesn't mean you still can't catch a few bream and some other species hitting the edge of the flats. So that's that same presentation I've been throwing. 2.5 inch slim swims on a 1/4 10. It's a pretty versatile presentation, so I can get out on the edge of the flats here, I can get a tailor, I can get a flatty, see what else we can find here. We might still pick up a few bream as they move off the flat as well. So there you go. Beautiful little Gamakatsu hook pinned in the bottom of the jaw there, and he smashed that. Got to check my leader when you get a flathead or a tailor or those sorts of things. Check my leader. My leader's a little bit knocked around. I'm going to trim that up and I'm going to tie that back on and get it back out there. Fish on.
There we go. Convince that guy to eat.
Yep. Oh. Yep. Righto.
Oh no, bream bait.
Yep, so we've moved out off the flat. The bream are moving out off the flat. So that kind of gives us a second bite at them. When we're up on the flat and we're right in amongst them, we can get stuck into a ton of them, but as that tide drops out, we need to make the call and move out to the edge as well, and that way we can sit here for a bit longer and get a second bite at the bream fishing off the edge of that flat. So it's been a pretty cool session getting stuck into a few of these guys. Righto, we'll pop him off, send him back. We might be able to get 1 or 2 more before we get too shallow on this edge.
Right, so obviously we've been flats fishing today. Have a look on Google Earth. There is a hell of a lot of flats around all of the coastal areas of Australia. But a key thing to look for is broken up bottom. Look for rocks, any bit of structure, sort of motley bottom where it goes from sand to weed. Any features will hold fish.
Yep, there we go.
Just like whatever that is. Any features will hold
this
fish. We've got some weight to this thing.
Yeah, it could be a nice flatty on the edge of that flat.
But yeah, we've never ever fished this flat before, but we had a look on Google Earth. What do we got? Nice.
Oh, nice flatty. This is what I really wanted to wrap the day up on this fish. Nice flatty. So basically we're taking the same presentations that we're using on the flats and we're bringing them out to fish the edges as that tide drops off the flat. So hopefully we can get this guy in the net and give you a look at him. This is a nice flatty, and they're going to hang along the edge of the flat where we've been chasing those bream.
Yep.
So that is dynamite. I reckon that might just about do us, mate. The weather's getting a bit wet.
Yep.
Getting a bit damp here. But what a session, you know. We found those birds working on the flats. We got the bites. We had an absolute epic session on the Bream, but it only lasts as long as the tide lasts, and that tide dropped out. We moved to the edges, tailor, Bream, and now finish off with a nice slatty on the edges. So if you love your fishing, don't forget about the flats that are in your area. Check out Google Earth, get out there, hit the flats on that last hour or two of the run in, first hour of the run out, and don't forget those edges as that tide drops out. Check out all our gear, tackletactics.com.au. You'll find the stuff that we use today. Get out there, hit your local flats, fish on.